If you enjoy our work, consider making a donation to mixtapestories.net or at Patreon/mixtapestories, all one word. Thank you. Mixtape Stories, creating beautiful fiction in a disappointing timeline.
"28 Sessions Later" by Michael Juge is inspired by the events of Alex Garland's 28 Days, Weeks, and Years Later series. Since the initial outbreak in England and the second wave, which reached the European mainland, researchers have been trying to better understand the rage virus. The following recording is from Dr. Smith's 28th session with the patient, who remains one of the only confirmed cases of an infected who recovered.
This morning, I didn't think about it. I mean, it wasn't the first thing that crossed my mind when I woke up.
I'd say that's progress. So, what were your first thoughts?
Well, it's stupid, really. But, ever since I returned, I've been catching up on what I missed. And there was that show, Game of Thrones.
I heard of it.
Well, when I got infected, the show was still running. And after I returned, while I was in quarantine, I binged the rest of the series. And, well, I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but the last season was terrible. Oh, well, I figured. So I moved on. But recently I've gotten into YouTube, and I started watching commentary about the last season, and it sent me down this rabbit hole. And I woke up this morning, and the first thing I thought was, my God, they totally ruined Daenerys. I mean, making her this mad queen? Come on. So it's silly, right?
Silly can be healthy.
Well, in any case, it felt good waking up and not thinking about it, at least for a little while. Of course, the reality settled back in after a couple of minutes, but it felt good waking up and being me, the way I used to be, like the way it was before, and just being normal again. Are you sure you can't hypnotize me to make me forget?
Do you remember what it was like when you were infected?
Not really.
So what is it you want to forget?
Well, the fact that I was a monster. The fact that I was an infected.
What was the first thing you do remember when you recovered?
It's not like that, Doc. I didn't just suddenly come to and say, hey, what's all this then? Why am I covered in someone else's blood?
But there was a moment at some point when you were no longer in the thrall. I'd like you to try to recall that moment.
It's difficult to pinpoint. There are times here and there I'd be staggering through a forest among the other infected, and for a moment I'd think to myself, what the hell am I doing out here? And then another time I'd be slouched by a burned out store and a few of the other infected milling about, and suddenly I feared their presence. And then I remembered I was on the highway and my feet were killing me. Hundreds of thorns and my toes were mangled. My hands were covered in blood and my fingernails were... I looked around and I found that I was staggering with a herd of infected, and I gasped. I thought they were going to tear me into pieces, but they didn't pay any attention to me because I was one of them. I stopped, and the herd kept walking down the highway past me. Then when they were out of sight, I staggered off the road. I collapsed into a ditch, and the soles of my feet were in ruins. I stifled my cries because I didn't know where I was or who I was or who was around. I think that was maybe there where I was me again.
Meaning that you were no longer infected.
I don't know for sure, but I was whimpering and I was scared of being discovered by the infected. I knew at least that much. So, yeah, so maybe it was then that I was past the infection. I tried to stand, but the pain was too great and I collapsed again. And my feet, I was terrified and I was in pain. And the stench of me, I wanted to vomit. The sundress I was wearing, it was stiff and filthy beyond recognition. You couldn't make out the flower pattern anymore. My husband bought that dress for me at the market.
Oh, so you remembered that you had a husband by this point.
No. No, that's the odd thing. I don't remember John or being married per se. I didn't even know who I was yet. But the faded pattern of the flowers and the feel of the cotton, I remember how he looked at me when I put it on, and I remember how I felt when he ran his hand under my dress as he, I remember the flush of passion that we shared. He was a little quick, but it was our honeymoon. We knew we had the entire week to wear each other out.
But you didn't recall his name or the circumstances.
Just that there was a man and me unbuttoning the top to give him a look, and how we were in our own thrall, if you will. But the sundress, it was bloodied and soaked in gore and dirt and filth, and I stripped it off. I tore it in two. I wrapped the rags around my feet. I crawled out of the ditch. I hobbled along the highway, and then there was a road sign, and I realized I could read again. It said Saint-Omer, 6 km, though I didn't understand what km meant.
Oh, you're talking about kilometers?
I didn't grow up with kilometers, Doc. I didn't know who I was yet, let alone where I was. And then I heard something. The howling. The howling reminded me of the alarms. We were in the lobby of our hotel. My husband and I were on our honeymoon. We first heard about the virus jumping the channel to the mainland a couple days earlier, but, we treated it like some bad joke, like, this would happen on our honeymoon. But then, when the news on the TV reported the emergency, it was in French, but it was clear that evacuer meant evacuate. We were in the lobby, they were shouting. My husband grabbed my hand.
It's going to be okay.
Out on that road, that's where I tried my first word. John. His name was John. I awoke inside a farmhouse. I vaguely remember crawling there. I called out, but there was no one home. I spent days there using bottles of liquor to clean the wounds, and I found clothes there belonged to a man.
Did you know who you were by then?
I did. Slowly, I remembered my name, John's, my parents, my brothers. I remembered when I staggered up the stairs into the bathroom.
What is it?
That was the first time I saw myself in the mirror. And I looked like one of them. My eyes, they were no longer bloodshot, but you wouldn't know otherwise. My hair was in patches. Several teeth had been chipped. A couple of them were missing. My face was covered in blood, and I cried. I cried until I passed out. Eventually, I cleaned myself, and I even cut my hair, shitty as it was.
How long did you stay at the farmhouse?
A couple of days, I think. I don't think I ever would have left there, except there wasn't any food. Not one can. I didn't know if I was the last girl on Earth or how much time had passed, but I knew I'd starve if I stayed. So I put on a pair of boots that were way too big, and I decided I'd take my chances at the nearest town, Saint Omer. The town was mostly burned out. There was no one in sight, just a few skeletons. There was a grocery store, but it had been looted long ago, and of course, but I found a couple of cans of dog food, and I was desperate, and so I ate them.
According to the reports, when the army arrived, they said that they found you hiding from them. Did you think that they were infected?
I knew they were men. I mean, you couldn't mistake the sounds of the vehicles and the people speaking, but I mean, I didn't know anything about the state of the world at that point. I'd heard stories about the looting and the gangs in England, like during the initial outbreak, and those gangs of rapists and arsonists, and, they were human, but that didn't make them anyone you'd want to run into. Was this some sort of gang in the post-apocalyptic world? Like, I didn't know. So I hid. And so one of the soldiers found me. I'd squeezed inside one of the refrigerators, and the sorbets had long since turned to mush, and he raised his rifle, and I screamed, "Don't shoot!" And he couldn't tell what I was at first. I was still all scratched up, and my face was broken, but I could talk. And he yelled in French, and I just pleaded until he realized I didn't know French. And then he lowered his rifle.
You must have felt relieved, seeing that the French cavalry had arrived.
No, quite the opposite. I was terrified. I knew what I had been, and I couldn't explain how, but I had been one of the infected. I had never heard of anyone recovering from the virus before, and so what did that make me? What would they do to me when they found out? The soldier offered to help me out of the fridge, and I protested, but I was too weak to resist, and he carried me out of the store and into a medical tent. And I was too weak and too injured to run. A nurse took my blood pressure and asked how long I'd been out here. I didn't say anything. I hadn't a clue. He looked at my nails. He saw the scars from bite marks, and he knew. The doctor asked if I had been infected, and I broke down.
Did they assault or threaten to assault you?
No, but they put me in cuffs. Said it was for my own protection. I was put in a paddy wagon and they hauled me away. I came to find out in quarantine that 3 years had gone by. I was out there. I was one of them for 3 years. Can you believe that? 3 years. We were told all the infected in England died within 6 weeks. They didn't eat or drink. They just went berserk until they were too weak, and then they died of dehydration and starvation.
Yeah, the virus mutated. Something happened during the second outbreak. The infected developed a sense of self-preservation. You must have found a way to sustain yourself.
We all know how I survived, Doc. We know what I ate. We know how I lived.
You don't know that for certain. There's plenty of deer and rabbits out in the woods, and other...
I couldn't chase down a deer. Do you ever try to catch a rabbit or even a chicken? I mean, come on. We know what I did to survive. I think about the rotting flesh under my fingernails when I cleaned myself in the farmhouse. Who might that have been? Making my way to Saint Omer, desiccated bodies were strewn about, some with teeth marks. Did I chip my teeth on the remains of that child over there? Were those my nails that scratched the body inside that car?
That's why you cut your nails daily. You're trying to remove who you are from the infection.
I see the way you're looking at me.
How am I looking at you?
Come on, Doc. You think I don't know? I wonder if she remembers biting into human flesh. Isn't that what you're wondering?
From everything you've told me, you have no memory of being an infected.
But I must be withholding something. I have to be. 3 years out there as an infected, and I can't recall anything? I must be lying.
Are you?
I remember panic. Uncontrollable, unyielding panic.
When you were attacked at the hotel lobby?
No. It's something you can't escape, panic. You try everything, but it follows you wherever you go. It envelops you, it strangles you, it becomes you, and you thrash about. You wish to tear it from your fucking head, and it consumes you without letting you die. The panic is so overwhelming, you vomit, and you cannot stand it, and you would give anything not to feel it. And then you see the source of your torment, all those people. They are demons, and they stole your dignity, your sanity, and something overcomes you. They call it the rage virus, but they've got it all wrong. You can relax, Doc. I'm not going to attack you.
I wasn't concerned that you would.
Sure, Doc. Like, it's all the same. In the years since they found me, I've been poked and prodded 1,000,000 times. I've undergone constant monitoring, and I've never reactivated into an infected. I'm still me.
So, who is that woman?
There is this one memory I have from when I was infected. I awoke from a dream. Did you know that we still dream when we're infected? I dreamt of before. I dreamt of John. Sweet, loving, cuddly John, the man who gave everything for me. He threw himself into the mob in the hotel lobby to save me. It didn't work. I became one of them, but, it's something. And despite becoming an infected, I still dreamed as the woman I was before. I would have a moment of communion with her before the panic returned, and I became that monster again. And maybe I'm that same animal, just running away from it, the panic. And I just regained my words.
It's a start.
I miss that sundress, the one with the flowers.
The role of the patient was played by Marjorie Trace Juge. Join Mixtape Stories next month for the 2-part series, The Human Core.